certain cities and states, and New York is talking about shutting down my hometown, and that's what it is. So I say all that to say, please protect yourselves and do what you have to do. Today we have two exciting guests with me. I have Miss Alicia Aurora, and I will let her introduce herself and to give her background. Go ahead, Alicia.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Alicia Arroyo. I'm happy to be here with you tonight, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
I hail from the Bronx. I'm a
Uh-huh.
Bronx girl, born and raised.
Yes.
After high school, I joined the military, so I am a veteran of the
Good.
United States Navy. I'm also a retired NYPD officer. I actually vested out. I didn't do my full 20 years. I left NYPD to pursue a career in education. I then spent the last 13 years in education as a teacher and as an administrator.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for having me. And I have a special guest with me today. It was a last minute thing. I had to ask her to come, and I had to throw the cousin love in there. I have a world-renowned doctor with me out of the DMV area, and I am proud to say this is my first cousin. I have Dr. Marilyn Corder with us. Hello, doctor. How are you today?
Hello, hello. I will call your place the village. Hello, live
Yes.
talk, and I am excited. And thank you. Anything for you, cuz, because we have
Thank
to
you. I
make sure we
appreciate it.
real.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Let's listen, everybody out there. This is Real Talk Chronicles. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook Live. I asked my panel today to share it. Today, since you came in, Doctor, Alicia is going to be my co-host with me for the time that you are with us. So we appreciate that. And we're going to get right into it. So everybody out there, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Like it, share it. My lovely wife is in the house doing Malika Foster stuff. She will be with us later on today. But we but we have so much to say. So Alicia, when you get a chance, you can share it. Doc, I know you are working hard, so you will do it later. So Doc, let's get right into it. This gentleman that we have in office, the president of the United States, caught COVID-19, did not want to wear the mask, denounced it so many different times, played games with it.
Right.
Then his whole administration seemed like they caught COVID. Please, he goes to Walter Reed Hospital and they administer him a bunch of medicine. Please elaborate what if you can recall or whatever it is. Tell us about what's going on with this.
Okay. All right. So this is what, month 8. It feels like a long pregnancy with this COVID. And we are locked down. We're here in the DMV. We're here in Washington, D.C. I'm only about 10 blocks from Walter Reed to my north and the White House to my left,
Exactly.
south. And I tell you, it has been all I'm doing. I'm still shaking my head. I've been a physician for numbers of years, 40 plus years. And I've never seen such a circus. I mean, and he's the center clown.
Yes. Yes.
He got COVID, and you know what? The leakers are saying he got COVID. It was positive middle of the week, not just on Friday. But what he did, he didn't tell anybody. They didn't make it public because he had to do his fundraising. You know, he's got to do that. And and at those events, there were folks without their mask, not socially distancing, and spreading. So it was like the super spread. Then he went to, of course, the prior weekend, it was the Rose Garden. And when you look at the seating arrangements and you look at how they were just ignoring science, almost such like a cult, really. And I mean, it's like I have patients who have COVID. I have patients, I have kids, and we're talking to them. They know the lockdown. They know they can't touch. See, they're even in their own house. They're separated. They respect it. But this man in the White House is totally disregarding, totally disrespecting. So he got it. And when he got it, like I said, he became symptomatic and he was blaming, it's interesting. He was blaming Hope Hicks's contagiums, is how we call it, from military and from law enforcement. But it turns out when you track it, when you do your timeline, I think Hope got it from him.
Right.
Okay, when you really he got it in the Rose Garden. And so he's been walking around incubating with COVID, because when he got symptoms this week. So usually it takes, you're asymptomatic for a while before you get symptoms. Okay. So he finally admitted Friday morning or what have you, but he knew all along. Now, what happened to him in the White House is what many of us physicians are asking. He was having what we call hypoxia, meaning that his oxygen level was going down. So he was given oxygen at the White House. Now, he'll tell you that he really wanted to go somewhere else other than the White House. No. It wasn't his choice. His physician, Dr. Conley, said, look, you're not dying under my watch. You're not going to get sicker. So they helicoptered him. They airlifted him, not drove, because we're only talking 30 minutes, less than 30 minutes from the White House to Walter Reed. It's right down the street, both of it being just in Northwest. They helicoptered him. And, of course, he was wearing the mask. All of a sudden he had to do the things that he was teasing Biden and the rest of the responsible representatives in doing. So who knows what his wife is doing in terms of her symptoms. And I understand there's rumor that she's either with her parents quarantining, but they're elderly people. So that's the last step. So they're not, Dr. Fauci is just saying, short of I told you so. So he goes and he gets everything. They throw everything at him, including the kitchen sink. He's on medications that typically you're not on until you are on a vent. Remdesivir, he's on dexamethasone, which is a steroid. He's also, of course, on oxygen. He's on zinc. He's on all of the vitamin D. They're just throwing everything at him. Fortunately, they didn't throw Lysol and Clorox at him. Okay,
they should have. That's what he suggested. Exactly.
Just give it your arm for an IV. But he's on all of this, which it's not standard. Number one, it's not FDA approved. Number two, and it's all of the above. So you can get side effects from each and every one of them. The dexamethasone is the anti-inflammatory, and that's when you have lung conditions. Anybody who's an asthmatic knows that to stabilize their lungs in general, we put them on steroids called Flovent, budesonide, Pulmicort. So that is something to stabilize the cilia, the cells in your lungs. So what does that tell me? No one has talked about the chest x-ray. Is he already having the effect in his lungs? He had a sore throat. He had some difficulty breathing. So you get these little spots. His this is that, and he is still having concerning symptoms. So even at Walter Reed, his oxygen level dropped in the low 90s. Room air, as we breathe, you're supposed to be 98 to 100 in room air oxygen level. So they put this little pulse ox on your finger, and when you see it 95 or even 97, you're like, wow, something's going on in those lungs. They're not expanding, they're not exhaling, and something is going on. So they put through oxygen on them even in Walter Reed. So I hear the public is not going to know this. And that, whatever that was yesterday, the clown show riding around, infecting the
Secret
Service and all of the people who had to escort him out. That was so irresponsible.
Yeah, it was. Go ahead, Alicia.
I was going to ask, so, there's a lot of skepticism out there on whether or not to believe that this may be a hoax, given the history of this president and the White House and the information and rhetoric that comes out of the White House. Is it plausible that this may be something made up, given the fact that he spent such a short time in the hospital with medications that are usually administered to people who are very, very critical? Is it plausible to that these medications could have worked so quickly?
Well, let me tell you, because of who we're talking about, and unfortunately, even physicians who have taken oaths, some of them have forgotten about the oath. They're bullied, and I wish I was on that team, because I would be telling it like it is. And some of them against medical advice. Now, there's one or two doctors who braved up. Now, they may not have a job tomorrow, but they braved up yesterday, because I got a call from my son who's in Manila. He's like, he's outside, he's riding around. I'm like, what?
Yes, exactly.
They need to put him in a straight jacket. Well, anyway, One of the doctors said he went outside AMA, against medical advice. So going back to your theory, it's so many things I wouldn't put past him, but I think with other people having symptoms, Kelly Conway, the rest of them having symptoms, I don't think this is fake. I do think, however, he's trying to fight it as much. He's coming out with, between the different new stuff. And someone said, well, maybe what he's going to do is get all of the stuff to work, and then it becomes patented, and then he buys all the stock in it, and everybody, and he gets rich if he's still alive. Still alive. So I think at this point, it's like karma and science got together, as Saturday Night Live said, and they just said, okay, we got this. 200, almost 210,000 lives are looking up and said, well, see what happens, when you're recklessly living and ignoring the science. And, as he said, it is what it is. I think this is where we are. It is what it is.
He's so narcissistic that I think he really believes he knows better than anyone.
Yeah. Well, that's called narcissism. Okay. That's called narcissistic. And, there are other diagnoses that us professionals know that he does have, such as a learning deficit. That's why he has about 10 words. Tremendous is one, great is one, so we got
also suffers from the disease lack of empathy.
And
exactly.
The ability to empathize with anyone.
Right, that's right. That's my son. My son's a psychologist, and he's like, they have no feeling. It's all about them. They could cut you and keep walking. They have no feeling. It's your fault that you bled and died. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, me, and that's the narcissism. And then there's a learning deficit. That's why he's so quick to call somebody stupid and not smart. That's why they ended up, locking away, throwing away the keys, his transcript, which is probably not even a 1 point something. So, but he's quick to tell somebody they don't have a brain. And, it's genetic, and we see his offspring. The males, as a geneticist, and that I am, the males in his family, look at them. And the younger they are, the more affected. That's coming from his DNA. Okay, that's coming from his DNA. So,
and you would figure with all them, with all that family, with all that psychological problems, they should want Obamacare, but they trying to get rid of it.
Right. That's right. Exactly.
Well, they don't need it. So
well, that's right.
And the narcissistic side of them, or that's their character. They're narcissistic. They don't have the ability to think about the greater good it would do for the masses. They can't see beyond themselves.
Right. And just read what his niece says and what his sister said, and they have seen and observed him close
behind the closed doors.
For the years. That's right. So it's like we're not making it up. We're not.
So let me, it's so funny. You know what he just did, right? He just walked into the White House. Malika texted me, and he just walked in the White House, and now he's showing he's in the White House, and he took the mask off. What is wrong with this dude? And you know what's so funny? He lacks so much presidential energy with this. It is so disgusting to see this, because you know what's so funny? Sometimes it's not even about Republicans and Democrats. Sometimes it's just about this right here. It's just disgusting. You know what I'm saying?
It's about decency. It's about caring for others.
Right.
It's about right and wrong. And this president doesn't have the ability to discern between right and wrong. I think he's evil to the core.
Right.
He's so narcissistic that he wants to be accepted by any group, no matter if that group spews hate.
That's right.
So long as they love him, that's all that matters to him and his family. And that's unfortunate, because that's who represents us, the people, right now, unfortunately.
And speaking of his family, I'm sitting here in Northwest Washington. Like I said, the White House is just down the street. I'm at 14th Street. The White House is 16th Street. And his family lives around the corner, his daughter, et cetera, because so does Obama. And just to see how Jared, Ivanka, the rest of them allowing somebody, I would think, would have some common sense, would have some type of control factor, pull the plug in terms of, when he's trying
well,
to.
What they say, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for someone who's power hungry, obtaining that much power.
Right.
It only breeds contempt, and he's just, wielding it around like a weapon, using it to serve his needs,
right,
without regard for anyone else in the world.
I don't know if you guys know, his son posted earlier today that he feels his father is kind of out of control, and it just says Donald Jr. wants to stage an intervention because he thinks his dad's acting crazy. I'll inbox this to you guys. He said,
Lord Jesus Christ.
Finally.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you guys something. Are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
When you COVID positive, you lose some things, including some brain cells, some thought decency, the things he didn't have anyway. And then when you're on dexamethasone, when you're on steroids, there's something called steroid-induced psychosis. And the heavy doses that they have him in, not only will he gain weight, he will get crazier. So unfortunately, we weren't, what we're working with from the beginning was in the negative. Now it's going to be further down in the negative.
That man is high on power.
Yes.
Yes. He's high on power. He's now under the, influences of all of these medications that were experimental to begin with. Mm-hmm. And now his family's showing concern. Why? Because it affects them personally. They didn't show an ounce of compassion or concern for the over 200,000 people that died and the hundreds of thousands of other people who are mourning those deaths.
Yeah. And I know personally, I know 18 people who died. Exactly. 7 of them were frontliners. Some of them were patients, parents, etc. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. So Doc, let me ask you a question. And people, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Please, if you like it, you share it. Today I have 2 phenomenal people. I have Alicia Aurora with me, and I have my cousin, Dr. Marilyn Corder, with me to give us some insight into what's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So we're going to talk about this all night. Even when the doc is here and not here, she can stay as long as she wants, but she's going to give us some insight into this. So it's obvious, because he's the president. Was it normal for them to infuse all this medicine into him? Would that be a normal thing for a person, like going to see a physician? So they just did that because he's the president, correct?
They were not following protocol.
Okay.
They weren't even following FDA approved.
And remember, let's put this out there because it needs to be said. But the physicians that are treating him, the White House, they are active military. So he is their boss.
Commander-in-chief. Right.
He can order them to do whatever he deems necessary and appropriate, no matter how crazy it is.
Right.
I would hope that most people would be guided by a sense of morality and put their foot down when necessary. I don't know if these people would. But I just wanted to say that they are active military and they are likely acting on his orders.
So Alicia, let me ask you a question. Being a former military lady, personnel, this is for them to be there. That is a military hospital, correct? Is that what?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let me just read some comments like people are saying. I thank everybody for chiming in. Like I said, this is Real Talk Chronicles. We're on YouTube and we're on Facebook Live. My friend James Baker said, this is a narcissistic egomaniacal personality disorder. Ask any psychiatrist. James Brett said, you really have to blame his own party who hasn't checked him. You're right. They just let him run amok. He lost
a bad dog. Yes.
He lost those brain cells a long time ago. Yes, he absolutely did. Jay said, we have an American wannabe dictator in the White House because he is not being checked and he is allowed to do whatever. I blame the leader, Mitch McConnell, too. Mm-hmm. You know what's so funny?
Too high on power.
Right. Both of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what's so funny? Now he tweeted that, don't let take over you. You know, we can beat COVID and stuff like this.
Yeah,
This is
right.
one thing that I need to understand, that you're getting medical treatment that the average Jane and John Joe will not get. So, you know, let's knock it
Absolutely.
off with that. You know, you're the commander in chief. You're watching, you know, everybody, you know, they're gonna try to take care of you. You know, Doc,
again, this speaks to his narcissism. He's incapable of even understanding that he's in a position, you know, where he would receive treatment that the average person doesn't have access to.
Can I also say this for those out there? Most of the people who either died or had very severe COVID symptoms were either turned away from the ED, emergency departments, because they weren't sick enough. They were sent home. Some of them died at home, but some of them lived, or they'll say you're fine. Some of them waited in line for hours just to get tested. Then they waited 7 days to get their results while COVID was festering in them. So just for him to be able to get something within hours, you're right. And then for them to put IV and the plasma, the antibodies, and to have all of the experimental medications and then some. And then, you know, the 24/7 round the clock physicians, PAs, nurses being monitored. And usually routine, they talk about a 10-day window. They're not following CDC guidelines because he doesn't follow the science anyway. And this is the atypical privileged care. And
very privileged. He didn't come out and immediately say, you know, I get it. My condolences go out to all of these families and people who were affected by COVID.
Right.
He didn't come out saying, I understand now the pressing, dire need for affordable health care for everyone. He didn't come out and say that. The first thing he said was, look, I beat this, anybody can do it.
Right.
Because he doesn't have that ability to see beyond himself.
Now he's a superhero.
And hold on, Doc. Let me ask you a question. Thanks, Alicia. That's an excellent point. Doc, let me ask you that, piggybacking off what she's saying. Is he giving a false norm out here? Right? Is he making America feel that it's that easy to beat?
And that's the sad thing. That's so scary. You know, I wish, well, what happened to his buddy, Mr. Kane?
Yeah.
You know, these are the people who are very sick.
Exactly.
And he'll tell you, young people are not affected. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. We have Children's Hospital here. We have patients in hospital, children with COVID, and they're dying also. Mm-hmm. So it's all the misinformation. And what saddens me is when he does come out from this, and, you know, he's going to play it up like I did this and it's possible. And, you know, I'm going to go back and return to the campaign and all of that. It's going to be so misinformed information. And folks are going to say, oh, wow, if he could beat it, then we're going to have more deaths because he's still not going to wear the mask. He's still not going to socially distance.
Huge distrust
right
now and such skepticism about everything that's happening. There's no leadership. There's no guidance. There's just a lot of misinformation coming from various sources, and people don't know what to believe. They know that they don't trust this man and they don't trust this administration.
What I'm so concerned with his statement that he made today, feeling really good. And then when he said, don't be afraid of COVID, tell that to the families of the 210,000 people who died of something he said, don't be afraid of. Don't let it dominate your life. People are still on vents. Don't let it dominate your life and you can't even breathe. Okay.
That's crazy.
And then he goes on to say how we have developed under the Trump administration some really good drugs and knowledge. Well, he doesn't have any knowledge, but even the drugs are questionable. So that it's like, what? This is horrific.
And forget about all of those human beings who died alone without the comfort and support of their family members. And all of the family members that didn't have that opportunity to kiss their mother, their father, their child, their sister, their brother goodbye.
Right.
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking, and the misinformation or the lack of information coming from the White House regarding COVID is deafening.
Let's keep it real. Let's call it the lies.
Yes.
Okay, let's go right there. The lies that are coming out, because they know what the truth is. The Dr. Fauci is there. You know, the CDC administration is there. They know. They hear. You know, people who don't have degrees, children, teenagers, they know.
And we know that from his own words.
Right.
We knew how dangerous it was.
Right.
And you know what's so funny? Look, it seemed like his whole administration is catching it. And you know what's so funny? You know, they will still play it off like it's not that serious. But we know they're getting the best of hells and the health care. And they
concierge, it's called concierge medicine. They're getting the creme de creme.
Yes. And that's just a sad thing that they are just making this. And you know what's so funny? People they still want to call it the China disease and you know, the virus and kind of things like that. They want to just buff. Doc and Alicia, let me ask you a question. How much do you think this is just a shit show? It just playing games. I mean, we know. Okay, well, we're gonna say that the man is sick. All right. Well, he's acting like he's not sick. He acts like he's superhuman. He might be the Antichrist. I don't know what the hell this dude is, right? But the one thing, listen, somebody move that cloth back. You might see some sixes up in that joint. I don't even know. You know what I'm saying? But you know, and this is coming up on Halloween, so you know this is horror month. But I say all that to say, I mean, I say it with jest, but I say it with some kind of sincerity. But you know, why? It's just, why don't his fan base take it seriously? I think it's just a whole lot of diversionary tactics. I think he wants people to feel like he's superhuman, like he's almost like the Antichrist, like he rolls from, you know, like
it's a very set of events, series of events that happened recently, right?
Yes.
So I'm very skeptical. I don't know if he has COVID or not, but I am very skeptical. I wouldn't believe anything that came out of his mouth if his tongue came notarized.
Right. I don't know. Yeah. Every day is a whole new, it's like a new revelation or their lack of, and I'm just shaking my head in disgust. And meantime, folks, innocent people are being exposed.
So Doc, I need you to do me some favors, Doc. Please give people some insight on still the do's and the don'ts with this COVID-19, because if you listen to this dude, some people will discard their mask. We don't want that. So give us some do's and don'ts of what we shouldn't do with this thing. You know?
It's gonna be hopefully it's a repeat. So folks should have heard it, but wear your mask. You definitely wear your mask. Okay.
Absolutely.
Number one. Right. Number two, hand washing with soap, hand sanitizer. If you're out and you can't get to the water in terms of soap and water, then hand sanitize. Wipe down if you're grocery shopping or whatever. Wipe down the carts. This virus can last for hours. Don't pick your face. Don't put your hands in your face. That includes your eyes, your nose, your mouth, etc. Make sure you socially distance. I was talking to a patient today, and you know, I'm trying to make sure that they're socially distanced. She was telling me she done had sex with her boyfriend once a week. I'm like, Jesus, you know, you can't do that. You can wave, you can talk, you know, twit, but don't do that. Okay. Yeah. And vitamin D. It's interesting. One of the things that they did give Trump a lot of vitamin D3. Of course, zinc is important. You know, the teas, anything that's going to help your immune system. But the key thing is socially distance and hand and mask. You have to. It works. You have to.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to let everybody know this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster. I have two lovely ladies with me today. I have Alicia Aurora, and I have Dr. Marilyn Corder, my cousin, who I love dearly. And she has given us the Real Talk. She also has her show. Doc, just tell them what your show is every Saturday, The Village.
Radio 1, that's Kathy Hughes, and it's WOL 1450 AM. and we're live every Saturday. We had a CDC representative this past Saturday from 3 to 4 p.m. A CDC, and she was talking infectious disease, and she said disproportionately, unfortunately, it happens to more people of color because we're in the front. We're the bus drivers, we're the docs, we're the the restaurant workers, the grocery store workers. So we're getting infected like disproportionately 10 times, and we're dying. I'm chief of staff at one of the hospitals, the only hospital here in Southeast, which is a socially, economically challenged hospital. And we have to make sure that we continue to inform, people. One of our guests on Saturday said, well, she see young people don't have masks on, and she's questioning, like, why not? They're like, we have other things to worry about. I don't know anybody. One young man said, I don't know anybody who died, but I know people getting shot and people getting killed by the police. And my chances of getting killed by those top two, is higher than me dying from COVID. So we're just going to need to make sure that we still emphasize and educate and let them know we still have a responsibility. Because if you're exposed as a young person, when you go to grandma's house or your parents' house, etc., they too can become so overwhelmed with COVID. And I have 2 cases like that. 2 of my patients who were toddlers. The young father came home, gave the toddler the COVID unknowingly. The toddler went to the grandparents' house. Both of the grandparents were hospitalized within 2 weeks for COVID. The young person and the toddler, they survived it. They became asymptomatic. But the grandmother was throwing pulmonary embolisms, and the grandfather had a stroke. So it's like they were in the hospital at the same time. And then I grew up with these folks. So, if you don't wear a mask for yourself, wear it for your neighbors, wear it for your family, wear it for the next person.
Yeah, like, it's one thing like Biden had said, and I'm going to read some comments in a second, but Biden has said it's like un-American if you're not wearing a mask. Even if you don't wear the mask for somebody else, if you can't wear it for yourself. If you're that asinine that you refuse to wear it for yourself, then wear it for somebody else. Have some consideration. I want to read some comments. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I have Dr. Corder with me, and I have Alicia Aurora. She's out of Florida, right? Exactly. She's out of Florida. So my man Mark said the Brazilian president and the Great Britain leader of this COVID isn't that bad nonsense. CDC has compromised. Pavon Ortiz said that's a fact, Mr. Aurora. You nailed it on the head. Shout out to our family, Linda Foster and Marcia Foster in the house. James Baker said Trump himself admitted to Woodward he knew exactly how deadly this virus was, but he still. I'm adding on. He refuses to do anything about it, and he refuses to do anything about his staff because when he had that debacle of a debate, his whole family was sitting there without the mask on, and they had a lady to go around to tell him, "Can you put your mask on?" And they totally ignored her. In
direct defiance of the rules set by the commission, right?
Exactly.
This is what they do. They are so narcissistic, even when it comes to, engaging in public events.
Yeah. Right. That elitist mentality. Let me just finish with it. Mark Rose said, how can any Christian support this nonsense? He's killing us. Like Pharaoh with a hardened heart. Exactly. Shout out to Angel Ray in the building. Jay Barrett said he's a master of deception and throwing people off the challenge and challenging the focus to make him look good. And I am asking the question whether he has it or not. It could be a publicity stunt. That's what we thought. Hold on. If this was be like spitting on the graves of over 200,000 people that died. It is like he's spitting on a grave. He doesn't care. He doesn't. Shout out to Velvet, Mean Moore, Alvin Moore in the house. Yeah, it's just so sad. Let's talk about, for a second. And Doc, I know I want to keep you on the health thing, but I know we talk real talk and the village talks real talk. So the bottom line, let's talk. Let's talk about how delusional his fan base is. Maybe is it a psychological thing where it's like the children of the corn with these people sometimes, yo.
Willful and willful ignorance. They know what's right and wrong. They know that this man spews hate, that he, dishes out misinformation to anyone who's listening, and they don't care. They don't care. So long as he hates the same people that they hate, they're okay with it. They're okay with it.
Exactly. And, he's a fan and probably a member of several of the white supremacy groups. And sad thing is, no matter what, even at their downfall, it's like we're going to follow him to the end of the cliff. We're going to just take it all the way. And that's what's so sad. So it's like Jim Jones is drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
They're drinking.
They don't even know why. They don't even know why.
Yo, you know what is so funny? He said, this is earlier today, but this is one of his tweets. And I just want to read it because the latter part of it is really what I want to read. It says, I will be leaving the great Walter Reed Medical Center today at 6:30 p.m. Feeling really good. Don't be afraid of COVID. Don't let it dominate your life. We have developed under the Trump administration some really great drugs and knowledge. I feel better than I did 20 years ago. It's not Viagra, dude. It's not. It's not. It's not. Cialis. Knock it off. This is something more different than anything else. You're talking about you feel better than you did 20 years ago because you high on these drugs. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Doc, like you said, they gave him like how many different drugs? Like 4 different drugs all at one shot?
Right.
That's crazy.
Which is not the protocol. And we're talking medicines that you do one at a time. You see what works. You look at the lung. And it's interesting. His doctor is not talking about, he declined to answer the question of what the president's lung scan looked like or the testing history, like how many times he was tested, how many positives he had before he admitted that it was positive. So it's so many uncertainties. And he's even talking about returning to the campaign trail. It's like, what? I don't know. It's like you're going to blazing fire when you
trying to make sense of his thinking. It's like trying to get into an argument with a 2-year-old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no right reason. He's just, you just have to accept that he is exactly what he's showing you he is.
And he's not going to listen to the doctors. He won't listen. And like I said, some of the doctors, you're right, they're just kind of commander-in-chief, aye, sir. But some of the other ones who are not identifying themselves, they're like, this is crazy, against medical advice. So it's not what should be happening.
What's so funny? I had heard that he was walking around the hospital, shaking hands, trying to shake hands and talk to people. And like people were always so sad because we have to understand, especially Alicia and I being former law enforcement, that he was, and especially you, Alicia, being more, you were military, that he was jeopardizing Secret Service. So you look at all the people that you didn't care about, but just and the fact of this, they were just saying on the news that he really doesn't like his detail to wear the mask. He wants his detail without the mask because that's what he wants to portray, that he's invincible. I just want to give some more shout outs to people out here. And like Mark said, he said, what does this say about our country? It's a shame that this is happening. Exactly. Angel Ray said they have a psychosocial issue. Something is clearly wrong. Lunacy. Exactly. What's up, Marianne? What's up, Patrick Reynolds in the building, my old college mate and lieutenant. Jay Burnett said his followers hate people of color and immigrants so much that they don't realize he is screwing them over too by trying to take away their health care, for example. The hate is real deep. Doc, give us some insight real quick on what happens if the healthcare changes in this administration with this new person coming into office. Give us some insight into
that. Well, she's going to take away women's rights, for starters. Okay. And your body is no longer your body. It's the body of the government. And the government is going to make all of the decisions, even if you are a victim of a rape or even if you have genetic
right.
So that's going to happen. Then it's going to be the have and have not. It would be such a level where folks are going to get sicker because they don't have access. They can't afford to go to the doctors or even have insurance. So they're going to present in a more of a severe grade 4 cancer, level, whatever, stroke, and they're not going to survive. So we're going to see an increase.
And we'll go back to, the earlier part of the century when women had to go to back rooms.
Oh, yeah.
These abortions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
unscrupulous doctors
with hangers in the back alley.
Right, and it caused, you know, it caused a lot of death. And you know, it seems as though these elitists, these people in power, want to, you know, spoon feed and shove their religion down our throats. And it's very concerning, because once that law is passed, it's not only going to affect people of color. This is women across the board.
Right.
It's going to impact every woman, young and old.
Right.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a shame, and you know, like I have a friend of mine that went to grammar school with, and we go back and forth with this, and she gets mad when I say that, you know, Republicans. Well, I don't even know if I should say Republicans. I should say Trump supporters are delusional. But you know, to think that this man, because the bottom line is, and then we have some people, American blacks, like, you know, like Freddie Jr. says, the Hoteps and whomever, and Alicia, you know this. We're going to talk about this later. A lot of our Latin brothers and sisters are so stuck up on being a conservative that law enforcement love that they can't see it. They can't see that he's not doing anything for people of color. You know what I'm saying?
No.
You know,
what has he done? They won't be able to answer that question.
He disrespected Puerto Rico. He doesn't look at him. Look at him in LA. The wildfires are out of control. He's blaming it on them. Their fault.
Right.
Like, he never takes the blame for anything. He talks about. He tried to play that thing about how lawless the Democratic cities are, and like Chris Wallace finally spoke up. He said, "Wait a minute, Republican cities are just lawless too. So what's your stake on it? You know what I'm saying?"
That's right.
I think
Democratic cities aren't any more violent than Republican cities. Although they try to paint a different picture, the fact is that the numbers show that both Democratic and Republican cities have same amount of violence going on.
You know, Doc, why I have you, and I know you love talking about this stuff too, but what should people do with pre-existing conditions? You know, about, you know, diabetes, like heart problems, asthma, like, you know, because you're much more than just a doctor. You're my cousin, so I know. And this side of this family, this Foster side, we keep it tight. You know what I'm saying? We get it in. So I mean, you can stay and keep it with us, but just give us some what people with pre-existing conditions try to do to protect themselves just a little bit.
Let me tell y'all, you better take your health into your own hands, because this is going to be really a horrific time in the next 5 or 10 years. And those people who are pre-diabetic, reverse that so you won't be diabetic. Those folks who, you know, are not doing well by their bodies, what they're eating, you better get a garden in the backyard and start growing. You got to go back to in the 50s and 60s, how we had to take care of ourselves and, you know, didn't have the access. You're going to be paying more than a copay when you go in. And, you know, Affordable Care Act allowed you to get seen for wellness and prevention. It's going to be a cost. Many people are not going to be insured. And I'll tell you why. The employers are not going to be able to afford to pay for the insurance. So many people are unemployed right now. They don't have insurance already. So when you have to talk about comorbidities, you talk diabetes, you talk about folks who have cancer. They don't even know they have cancer. Folks having hypertension. If ever there's a time for people's cardiovascular systems to be stressed, this is the time. And this COVID, we're talking millions of people who've been positive. It leaves your body in a state of destruction. You may have survived it, but it will begin to have your body to have a tendency to have clots, you know, to have memory loss, to have low energy and duration of, you know, if they exercise. And even the young people may not be able to run up to 2 flights, 3 flights of steps without having shortness of breath. So in essence, as Biden said, this is going to be a new comorbidity. So that's
and it does not discriminate.
And not at all. Not at all.
Now let's talk about everybody out there, please. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm Bill Foster with my lovely guest. My panel tonight have Dr. Marilyn Corder, have Alicia Aurora. Please get out there and vote. Let's knock it off. You know,
my son even sent his vote, his absentee vote that I had to drop in. I didn't mail it. I had to go and drop it in. So, get out there and vote.
Yeah. Please out there, because, the bottom line is, I don't care. I do care who you vote for, but I just want everybody to vote. Listen, I think, he's turning, we're going to get some people on it from the post office, because he's making a debacle of that situation. I think is everything he's touching is like I don't know, this dude is like almost a Pied Piper, you know what I'm saying? Like Rumpelstiltskin. Like he has so many different characters and games, and people look at when you speak out against him, they feel like, yo, like, what's wrong with you? Well,
right.
What's wrong with you? You know what I'm saying? Because the bottom line is, what is he doing that has you so mesmerized that you just love this guy? You know what I'm saying? This has
what
go ahead, Alicia.
Is they don't love him so much as they hated the president before him. The fact that there was a black man who was the most powerful man in the world.
Yes.
It didn't sit well with them. It nagged at them. It's something that they just cannot get over. They couldn't fathom someone of color, a person of color, holding the highest position. And as soon as Obama became president, the campaign against him was set in motion. From day one, he was never given an opportunity. And that persists till today.
It's the Obama effect that we're talking about.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. Let me just read a comment right there. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. Appreciate you all for watching and chiming in and listening to my panel. Like Terrell Bush said, I sent mine in from Hawaii. I respect that. Natasha Dice said, one of my biggest fears. I get it. Jay Burnett said, real talk, Alicia. Marilyn McCord said, Trump doesn't care about anybody, anything, or anyone. This lets you know he lives the life of a liar. The people who work in his White House are mostly I don't know what she said, Moronites or something. I don't know. Their lives are in danger. Well, I don't know what they are. Listen, they're like puppets, and he's the puppet master.
That's right.
And it is what it is, because bottom line is, it is just a sad state.
I did want to say, if I may, about voting. We just recently moved to Florida, so voting was priority number one for us. Mm-hmm. And we hand delivered our registration to the supervisor of elections, because of all of this information regarding the postal, service.
Right.
But I wanted to tell anyone who's listening, if you're doing a mail-in, ballot, it comes with a pre-stamped, prepaid stamp on it. The post office does not have to honor that. So to ensure that your vote counts and that it is cast, put a stamp on it. Spend, the few, the cents it takes to buy a stamp, and put your own stamp on it, because then they have to mail it. If you rely on that prepaid postage, it may get to its destination or it may not. So word to the wise, put a stamp, put 2 stamps on it just to be sure, and then send it on its way. Spread the word.
Alicia, that's important information. Thank you for saying that. Shout out to Lois in the building. Bastastin. I hope I pronounce your last name good. Puppets the whole team. Terrell said, please address the voting by mail ballot and needing a witness. Alicia just commented on that. We can maybe go back to that. James Baker said everything is progressing according to Putin's plan. Right now, he's sitting on the sidelines eating popcorn and laughing his A off. Exactly. What's up, N.W. Lewis, my brother, Natasha? Good to know. Yes, let me tell you something. This is crazy. Doc, what's going on in D.C. with the voting? Is it the same like all over the world? Right? What's the temperature? Are they still? Have they opened up a little with the? Are they out there not wearing masks? I know in New York City they're getting carried away. They're losing their mind, like they want to party. PA is kind of like PA is on their game, but this is just a scary time.
We're afraid. We're wearing our masks, and I say that like a few young people, but we're wearing our masks. We're still scared. We're phase 2. We opened up a few schools and then we shut them down because incidents. So we're on a hybrid on some areas, but we're afraid. And we're voting. No longer is it 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's Black Lives Matter. So he lives Black Lives Matter Boulevard.
There you go. There you go.
And we're gonna vote. We're gonna vote. This area. This is Democrat area. Even though we're in the Capitol, and we know the Senate is here and all the Congress members, but we know what we're gonna do. Virginia, so we call ourselves the DMV. So in Virginia, we have early voting already, and 99% of those voters had on masks. So I would imagine many of them believed in wearing a mask. Okay. So.
Exactly. Hold on. Somebody wants to say my partner in crime, my second half right here. Got your cousin in the building. That's Alicia. That's my wife, Malika. So she has some announcements she'll do later on. But you know what? So Alicia, what's happening in Florida too? I know recently they just opened up. They just made so that 570,000 felons can vote. But then I heard that right now they did the whammy on them. They have to pay back their past court fees.
Right. Which is another way of suppressing the vote.
Absolutely.
Because when they do that, they're targeting people of color, which account for a large portion of the people who are coming out of prisons. And because we know the system is flawed. Here in Florida, although Florida has a huge spike in cases right now, the area where I live, which is Central Florida, specifically Kissimmee, Poinciana area, is known as Little Puerto Rico. It leans blue. I have not seen anyone unmasked when I'm out. I would say 99.9% of the people I come in contact with when I go to a grocery store or to a bank, everyone is masked where I'm at. I live in a gated community, 55 and over, so people are very, very cautious here. And although the governor lifted all restrictions here in my community, they are still, conforming to the guidelines.
Yeah, I just got this in right now. My man James Baker said, and I think I had posted it. So, like I said, I've made the Bill Foster page like a conduit of information. So anybody that wants to keep up with current events and stuff like that, I will post it. And I post it good, bad, and different about law enforcement, about anybody. It is what it is. I post it because you be the judge and you read it. James Baker said, it's mostly the Orthodox Jewish Hasidic community driving the rise in infections in New York City, Rockland, and Orange County. It started around the time of the Jewish New Year celebration. And hold on, I'm just got to see the more. Celebration and their failure to adhere to the protocols. So funny. I mean, when we get these people, Doc, I think I'm sure this makes your job harder, that people are just not adhering to the news and the protocol, and then they're coming in. And are you getting a lot with people with their babies? Do you have a lot of babies catching COVID?
Well, I have it by phone. I do telehealth.
Right.
And I say all of that to say, you got to be screened before you come in here. I'm in the office still, and we're not seeing sick. We're seeing only the newborns, the children who need vaccines. So this is as much, we call it a COVID-free zone. And because I got to stay alive too. And my staff, I have to protect them. So any symptomatology, we talk, we telehealth, we go get them. We send them to get tested. So we try our best. There are some offices that are not even open. So we do what we can do preventively, but we also want to make sure that what comes in is not going to be, spreading COVID throughout my office.
Right. Absolutely.
moved from a community. We just moved from upstate New York, Monroe to be specific.
Okay.
And that's where I was a school administrator. And we have a large Hasidic population there. We have a community of Hasidics that definitely had a high incidence of COVID cases, COVID positive, because they, for the most part, do not conform to the guidelines for COVID-19. You don't conform to the social distancing or the wearing of masks. I was personally confronted by some as I worked who did state that they believed it was a hoax, that it wasn't. And there was a time when at its peak that community had about a 90% positive infection rate. Yes. So very serious, and there's an uptick right now. I still keep in touch with members of that community, and there is an uptick there, and it seems to be, there seems to be an outbreak that's starting to tick up. So I'm sure we're going to hear about it more in the days to come.
Hey, Doc, let me know how many more minutes I have you, but I'm just going to read 2 more things. Like Marilyn said, I wish that you know that we all know one thing. If Biden wins, Trump will have to be carried out the White House. He will not want to leave without a fight. Look forward to that. Yeah, drag him by his ears. My man Lewis said felons need to apply for certificates of relief in New York if they have not had any criminal action against them in 10 years and can apply for those records sealed in the case of certain crimes. Actually, shout out to Kendra Moats in the building. So yeah, Doug, I don't know how long I have you, but listen, how long do you think this COVID thing is going to be around for?
Oh, it's going to be for months. We're about to do flu. We're having flu symptoms already. So it's going to be, from what we're hearing in the broadcast and among my colleagues, we're talking another minimal 6 months, 8 months. And we're going to have our ups and downs with surges. And the
vaccine, if it comes out, in the next couple of weeks.
No, they're not going to be able to get that vaccine out that fast, as well as the efficacy and the testing that's needed won't be available till early spring. And then I need to tell those out there, be careful and be aware of how fast or what they did not do in getting the vaccine out before you say, yes, I'll be one of the first to take it.
So Doc, well, before as soon as I hear of a vaccine coming out, I'll be calling you ASAP just to find out what's your take on it, you and Fred's take on it. Shout out to her husband, Fred Corder, another doctor in the family. See, this forced us out. We're a little crazy, but we smart. Shout out to the Forster family. We love you all. You know what it is. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know if that's something that you can divulge or speak on. Are you hearing of any vaccines coming? We hear what he's saying, but are you hearing anything? If you can divulge that?
Well, there are some out, but there was one that came out. I won't talk about the brand, and then they pulled it because of the side effects that occurred for those who were in what we call the clinical trials. So, I do vaccines all the time. All the time. I mean, I'm a pediatrician, so I just caution folks before you agreeing to get vaccinated. Please make sure you do your homework. Check with your primary care, but please make sure you do your homework. They're pulling things off now that they thought was going to work and was proven to work, or we heard it was wonderful, and now they're saying don't take it, don't do it. So just use your not only common sense, but just read in between the lines before you say yes to it.
I have a friend who works in a plasma center where they do a lot of this testing, who warned me, to not take any vaccine that comes out this year because the testing is not going to be accurate. So I know
they haven't studied it long enough. They haven't the time, the efficacy. In order to really know, it takes a while. It takes much longer than what is being predicted from the White House.
Cuz I got a question. Oh, my friend Julie Gonzalez from my grammar school. What's up, sis? How are you? She said, can you ask the doctor, once a vaccine is available, who should be getting it first, our kids or the elderly?
Well, they're actually talking about people of color. I don't know if you
Oh,
heard that recommendation.
no.
So,
Well, is that as guinea pigs or they just trying to?
Exactly.
It's a difference. It's a difference we giving it to us because we need it, and there's a difference to give it to us because we the guinea
see if
pigs.
it works.
You understand?
Let's see what happens to your body after you take it.
Yeah, I be sitting somewhere shaking. You be talking about he dancing. No, I'm dying.
And you know, people are coming back to me and like, okay, is this going to be another Tuskegee study?
Yeah.
You know, I think that what's going to happen is not going to be the children first, because even with vaccines, etc., you know, FDA, you can't really do a trial on children. You know, it's a whole different group. So eventually it will, but just like it took a while for the flu shots to be recommended for small bodies for children, so it would be more likely grown-ups and maybe even seniors, the most vulnerable. So to see, I mean, all I can say is just do your homework, read, stay woke.
So listen, let me ask you a question. Shout out to Mashira in the building. Hey, Susan, what's going on? Earl, Carlton. This is Real Talk Chronicles. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Like it, share it. We got the doctor in the house. She made a special appearance with me. I have Alicia Aurora with me today. And I want to ask you a question about side effects. Now, medicines have side effects. I'm assuming all medicines have side effects. Like,
yes.
From what you're hearing, or what you may know already, what are these side effects doing? Like, because I know that 45 took some medicine that I'm sure they have some side effects. Like, what are these side effects really going to do to people? Or is it going to be more harmful than good? And I don't want to hold you up too long if you got to go.
You said that about 3 times already.
All right. Well, check this out. I got one more question, and I'm gonna let you answer that. So I'm gonna let you answer that question, and then I have one more question for you, and then I'll let you go.
Well, even as I started by saying, the steroids, the anti-inflammatory steroids, the dexamethasone, has side effects. It has side effects from psychosis, as we mentioned. It has side effects in terms of what happens to your digestion. It has side effects from what it does to your bones, etc. But the benefit is that it's anti-inflammatory. So you have to weigh everything out. So if you have someone who can't breathe and you're like, look, I have to make sure that I save this person to make sure their lungs are aerated, you don't have a choice. And we nebulize, we do the oxygen, and we give them dexamethasone. It has side effects. Even your folks who take it on a particular, it's an anti-inflammatory. You have folks who have conditions such as inflammatory conditions, lupus, etc., and they take dexamethasone, they take steroids. With the other medicines, some of them, you don't know if it's allergic reactions, you don't know if it's going to harm your kidneys and your lungs, and it's to be studied. And just like when you hear medicines on TV, brand new medicines that come out, and they'll say, ask your doctor about this, ask your doctor about that. And then in a lower tone and really rapidly, you'll hear them say, however, it could cause this, it could cause that, it could cause bleed. Well, side effects have to be clear. And then you have to, again, see what we're talking about, because even with the COVID, you want to make sure that the person is alive, but you also have to monitor the side effects as they come out. And the remdesivir, that's an antiviral. You do that by IV, and it has promising potential. But again, with even that, and it's supposed to be a 5-day course. Who knows if he took it, if he's going to take it for the total of 5 days. But there's quite a bit of uncertainties, how effective it is and what it's going to do to your body. So, I'm just going to say this: for all the cures and all the promise that we hear for medications and injections, you still have to monitor the side effects. And each person is different. Each person is different in terms of how they respond.
Right. I have one last question, Doc, and I'm going to say goodbye to you. So I have a friend, my man Carlton, shout out. He said, I work in infectious disease, and the word is don't take any vaccine that comes out this year.
That's right. And he's telling the truth. He's telling the truth.
All right. Yep. Well, Doc, I appreciate you. I love you. You know you are always welcome, and hopefully you can come back. Yeah, you can go now. You
I can
always
go
welcome.
home now.
Yeah, you can go home now. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you. It was a last minute thing. But
Nina,
It was a
I have to let my staff who's been busy working wave to the community.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah, way
Lisa.
to the community. Take care of my cuz. I hope to see you
I
soon. Meet you
will.
soon.
He's working
Um,
hard in here. And I'm about to put my mask on.
yeah,
So
definitely. Oh, yeah, and that's with Doc. You're gonna be getting one of these now. You know, I'm sending these down to you. Exactly. So you be getting that. So Doc, please come back and once a month, you and Fred to let us know. I see the kitty cat. All right now. And keep us abreast of what's going on. I love you. Tell everybody I said hi, and I'll talk to you
love
in a
you
few minutes.
too.
All
Take care.
right.
Say hi to Malika. Bye, Malika. Bye, Alicia. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye. So yes, Alicia. Wow, she gave us some good information, didn't she?
very, very good information.
So I just want to thank Dr. Marilyn Corder, my cousin, my first cousin, for giving us some insight. It was last minute. I had to have her on. It was going to be Alicia and I, and we're going to have a special guest later. Alicia's going to bring her husband in to chime in with us. But tonight it was just due to so many things happening. The one thing about Real Talk Chronicles, we're very organic and we talk about what's happening today. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of shows out there today, but maybe not a lot of them that's going to keep it real. And I got you a world-renowned doctor in the building. You can Google her if you don't believe me. Her name is Dr. Marilyn Corder, and that's my cousin. Like I said, just to read out to what people are saying, this is Real Talk Chronicles, and I'm Bill Foster. My lovely wife, Malika Foster, is doing her thing, and I have Alicia Aurora hanging out with me today, and we're going to talk about some other stuff too, along with politics and things, because politics goes a long way in a lot of different other aspects of this world. So, like Marilyn said, Bill Gates' wife said that the black people should be the first to take the vaccine. What's up with her? Stay away from her. My man Erwin coming in from Europe. I haven't heard from you in a while, man. What's going on, brother? Everything good? Carlton, side effects vary from person to person, pending the age and the conditions. Absolutely. Lewis, 27 million side effects. Oh my God, can be worse than the condition. You're right. Truth, not real time to study the effects, bro, or cons. You're right. Carlton, thanks to doctor. I'll definitely tell her thank you. I will also tell the doctor that you said thank you. I will talk to her later. Kendra, we got to get you back on the show with the nurses. So let me know, sidebar me. I get my cousin Kendra in. I told you I got a lot of smart people in this Foster family, man. But this is the other side. This is my mother's side. So Kendra, we're gonna do another segment on some nurses. Yeah. We got to get it out. What's up, Gerald Evans in the building, big brother from the 2-8. Always looked out for me. Appreciate you much. So Alicia, let's talk a little more now. We know that this whole Democratic race, Republican race has thrown a lot of people in an uproar. I personally, like Alicia has stated earlier, she is a former NYPD officer. She is a former military person, and we were going to talk about that. But it has seemed like a lot of times with former NYPD people, and maybe she can elaborate too, probably on the military people, that if we don't vote what they want us to vote, we kind of get ostracized.
You're villainized and you are labeled as a cop hater.
Right. Go ahead. So elaborate on how have you lost some friends and former co-workers from this?
Listen, this is personally, I feel that if I am advocating for people of color, if I'm denouncing bigotry, hatred, discrimination, white supremacy, and you don't want to be my friend on account of that, keep it moving. I don't need friends like that. I could care less.
Absolutely.
If it's someone that I'm close to, the likelihood that they're going to think that way is very small. I keep my circle small, and the people that I align myself with, don't think that way. They want, equity and equality. It's something that is important to everyone. So I don't understand the people that I used to work with, who I had a lot of respect for, because we worked in the 4-8 precinct. It was a very busy house. Of course, it was dangerous. And although, yes, there was racism and discrimination, it really wasn't. The minorities pretty much didn't engage in that behavior for the most part. The police, the abuse of power, I didn't see that. You had someone cuffed, it pretty much ended there. You know, did what you had to do as a police officer. Now I see these people that I had great respect for applaud someone kneeling on the neck of a Black man and taking his life. Why? Makes no sense. And to cite that the person had a criminal history, so what? Right. It is not our job as police officers to be judge, jurors, and executioners. Yeah. We are to, you know, enforce the law, take someone in. If they resist, you know, you subdue them. Once they are subdued, there's no need to take it a step further and, you know, abuse your position the way that, you know, that person did. And I've seen a lot of officers on videos do, shooting unarmed people who are posing no threat, who have their hands up. That's disgraceful. It dishonors every good police officer out there. And the fact that so many of these police officers who, by all accounts, are good, decent people, are standing behind and, you know, these people and not denouncing them, it blows my mind. It just simply blows my mind.
Yeah, definitely. You know, shout out to everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Foster. I have Alicia Aurora with me today, talking and kicking it with me, having real talk, and that's what we do. Shout out to everybody that's watching. If you like what you're hearing today, we just had Dr. Marilyn Corder in the building, and now we're going to continue with Alicia. We're just going to keep it real and talk for some more. And shout out to everybody that's watching. If you like it, share it. Speaking of another former 248 person, Dolly Santos said hi. Dolly and I grew up together. She told me to tell you hi. She's a Republican. Yeah, she's a Republican, and Dolly, I say it to your face, you know, I love you to death, but yo, I don't know what happened to you. But you know, it is what it is.
Same thing, but hey, you know.
No, and I can say it because I grew up with her. I grew up with her, and I can say it. So we grew up in the same building, so we know each other very well. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. You know, I don't understand how a lot of times people of color can just be so, you know, oh, I'm so conservative and stuff like that. A lot of us come from.
Probably put it best. A lot of times police officers and police officers of color, but they just can't identify as anything but a police officer.
Absolutely.
They forget that before you are a police officer, you are a person of color. Take that uniform off, take the badge and the gun and walk down the streets. You'll be treated like every other person of color.
Absolutely.
When you encounter doesn't know that you are a fellow officer. And that's unfortunate because it shouldn't be that way. Everyone should be treated with respect. Every officer should be professional. And yes, there are bad people of color out there that are breaking the law, that deserve to be arrested and deserve to do time in jail. Likewise, there are white people, you know, doing the same things. But you cross that line into abusing your position and mistreating people and not having basic, decency, you stopped being a police officer a long time ago. Once you engage in that behavior, you're no longer a police officer. You're a thug, and you're just as criminal as those criminals you're arresting.
Absolutely. Let me just shout out. Natasha said, "How can we build trust in the community if these behaviors are not condemned by the department?" I'm gonna let Alicia answer that. Dolly, you're right. We can agree to disagree, and we'll do that forever. But love is love. You know, we 640 Riverside forever, Dolly. You know, that's what it is. So never no hard feelings. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it is Dolly and I can go back and forth all the time with our banter, but you know, the respect is there because the bottom line is she's still my sister. You know what I'm saying? And then there's people out there I know for a fact that one is a Republican and one is a Democrat, and they go back at it all the time. So, Alicia, I'm gonna let you answer this first question. Somebody said, Natasha said, how can we build trust in the community if these behaviors are not condemned by the department?
You can't. You cannot build trust in the community that way. You absolutely need to have a collaboration between the community, the public, and the police department. And that includes, you know, officers and their superiors. You cannot build on you know, a community that trusts the police department and police officers if you do not denounce bad cops, plain and simple. And it is not a betrayal of your badge, of your brotherhood, of your sisterhood, or whatever you want to call it. The betrayal is when these people act in a way that puts your life at risk, because now the public feels that you are against them, and now, of course, they are against you. That puts good police officers at risk every day, and it doesn't have to be that way. We can collaborate. We can work with the community to solve this issue, but it requires open, honest, very candid communication on both sides. And right now, it doesn't seem like many police officers are open to that. They're so hell-bent on defending the blue that they're not listening to the cries of the people. And
hold that thought. That's the point. We're going to definitely touch on that right there. Hold that thought. Shout out to Susan Rios. She was supposed to be on, but I know she was traveling. I hope everything worked out with the family and you traveled home safe, as I see you're here with me tonight. Susan says divide and conquer has been a long-standing tactic for those in power to get those below against each other, to divert, rather than focusing on what's the follow. Oh, sorry, the screen jump on power to get those below against each other to divert, rather than focusing on what's really oppressing all BLM, Black Lives Matter, or police. Supporting Black and brown folks or supporting brothers in blue are not mutually exclusive. Exactly. Terrell said, we need the guardian angels to come back and train the youth. We need somebody. That's why I'm trying to speak up and be a vessel and a conduit for people to be able to converse with law enforcement and have some kind of insight and dialogue.
Civility and honesty, because it's important to know that there are a lot of police officers out there who feel the way we do. There are a lot of good police officers who do denounce all of this
nonsense,
abuse of power, racism, because let's call it what it is. There is a lot of racism in the police department. There is a lot of racism and discrimination in NYPD. Look at the numbers, look at, you know, how many people of color actually hold positions of authority in NYPD compared to the white counterparts. And, you know, the numbers speak for themselves. This is an issue that's been going on for a long time. It's gotten better, but we still have a ways to go. And here's the thing that you know, a lot of people who work, a lot of police officers who use microaggression, very racially biased statements. They're not outright using racist statements, but they will use microaggression. And some people will acknowledge that they've heard. Some people, maybe they've never been a victim of it, maybe they've never witnessed it, but it is there, it exists. We've all heard it when they're talking about people of color in the hood. As a person of color, and a police officer, I did have the misfortune, rather, of being witness to that on occasion. And I did have, you know, lots of arguments with people over it when I was wearing my uniform. It didn't stop them. And I do believe it's because I stood alone most of the time. I didn't have people coming to either my defense, or not even my defense, but just standing up and denouncing those microaggressions. when we do that, we give permission to other officers to behave in that way.
So let me ask you a question, Alicia. You just made a statement, and I applaud you for the understanding that. But what happens? Why do a lot of our Latin brothers and sisters and some of our African American people, not all, because what I don't understand with a lot of our white counterparts, and shout out to the law enforcement that are watching, white, black, or different. This is no disrespect to anybody. NYPD, we're just talking, keeping it real talk. And if you don't want to deal with real talk, then this ain't the show for you. But this is what I do, and I have no problems having real talk. And I want people on here to have real talk, whether you agree or disagree. And I invite anybody out there to come on and show to. If you don't like what I'm saying about law enforcement, or you don't like what I'm saying about certain people or ethnicity, come on, or especially politics. I always give you the platform to come on and expose yourself and let people know what you're thinking. And I'll bring somebody on like Alicia or Lewis or anybody else that will go back and forth with you on politics or race relations, because that's what it is. Because understanding the problem, people don't want to talk about the problem. They just want it to go away. And, shout out to Sammy Ravello. He put up a post recently, because that's how Alicia and I met. And he put up a post the other day about, he did Ancestry.com, and he found out that he was a percentile of black and, this and that and everything. And then he said he wanted to leave the history in the past. And then I was like, and he calls himself an Afro-Latino. And I was like, okay. But then he says, he doesn't want to talk about race anymore. He just wants to be known as a proud American. And then he asked me, then at the end of his quote, he says, tell me what you want to think. And then I reiterated what he wrote. And I said, you really don't want to know what I think, because as much as I love you, the worst thing we can do is denounce our past. Because if you don't know your past, you don't know your history.
You're ignoring it, you're bound to repeat it. That's what's happening right now.
Exactly.
People don't want to have race talks. I'm sorry, but we need to talk about race when race is such a huge issue in this country, when systemic racism is a real thing. It is a valid concern for most people of color. And what happens with a lot of Hispanics who have not experienced racism or discrimination, they act like Trump. They disassociate themselves from it. They, because it doesn't affect them personally, they don't have the ability to empathize with people. Right. When you have millions of Americans who are people of color telling you that this is real, protesting, willing to give their lives, to put themselves in harm's way, to denounce this, to protest, to try to change it, you have to listen, even if you've never experienced it. I mean, I don't have to be raped to know that someone, some women get raped, and that it is a very real for many people, and that it tears at a person's soul. I don't have to experience that to empathize. So to my brothers and sisters who wear a uniform and say they don't experience it, they don't believe it exists, there are a lot of men and women in uniform who are of color who say it exists. And at the very least, if you truly are all about a brotherhood, you will care about those brothers and sisters as well. Because
Alicia,
there are a lot of them.
I have a question to answer you, and I applaud you for that. My man Lewis said, but it's between a hard place and a rock. Good cops are often silent while on active duty status. It is like watching a surgeon remove a toe when it should be taken out on a tussle, and everyone stands by and doesn't say nothing. Not cool. You're totally right. And that's what we're trying to divulge a lot of times. Excuse me, like Alicia and I are saying, we don't see with a lot of these things. They don't do it in front of us, but then we might hear a little spontaneous utterance that comes out, a Freudian slip. They're not really Freudian slip because they meant what they said. Alicia, now let me ask you a question. You are not a dark-skinned Latin woman, and I always tell people the Latin and African community are so beautiful because we can have people that look so different, from the spectrum of their hair and their eyes to their skin tone, but still be the same family member. and we are all together.
Everything between.
So hold on for a second. Let me ask you a question. And a lot of times, some people might look at you and think that you could enjoy white privileges. Why are you? Tell me about how you became so conscious and know that you are a woman of color as a Latina sister or a Hispanic woman. Elaborate on that for me.
Well, if you think of microaggressions as mosquito bites, I'm going to try to put it simply, then my body would be filled with mosquito bites. And everyone knows how uncomfortable, how painful they could be at times. That's what microaggressions are. They're little bites that are taken from you every time someone, I'm not very dark, but I'm not fair skin either. So I am a very stereotypical Puerto Rican. I have, ethnic hair. I have, brown skin. I mean, although light brown, people don't look at me and go, she could be white. No, that doesn't happen to me. Unlike my husband, who I would like to introduce now, because
bring him on, please. Bring him on.
White. He has been in the presence of officers who take the filter, throw it right out the window because they assume he's white and they think they can speak freely. So,
what's up, young man? How you feel, brother?
How's everything?
He's retired.
Everything is beautiful. Thank you for letting your wife join us today, and I'm so thankful for having you with us, man. And give us a background on yourself, please. Tell us your name and your experience in law enforcement and military too. Correct?
No military.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Michael Arroyo. I'm from the Bronx. Now we live in Florida. Originally, also from Warwick, New York. Retired NYPD detective.
Where'd you work at?
Living the life right now.
Where'd you work at?
I worked in auto crime, and I also worked in the 4-5 originally.
Okay, so we probably passed each other because I worked in the Bronx from 98 to 2008. So I'm sure I might have passed you and stuff like that. And thank you for being here. And like I said, I love the unity that you have. My wife is doing what she has to do, but this is Real Talk Chronicles. So everybody out there, like it and share it. So we're going to let them get into their law enforcement backgrounds. Your wife is just alluding to some stuff that because you're biracial, that you were privy to a lot of conversation. And let me just tell everybody out there right now, no one here is denouncing the job that pays us to stay home right now. So don't get it twisted. Understand what we're trying to say. We're just having real talk. And the bottom line is it starts because we don't want to have these conversations. So to move on and become better people and individuals, to make the police department better, not just NYPD, all across the world, because with one problem, right. So right now, but we're just going to delve into the mind because we're tired of hearing people out there saying, oh, that's not true. These are isolated incidents. Kiss my pretty black, you know what? It's not isolated. It's real talk. And the thing is, that's why I have no problems. Anybody that's worked with me, my exceptional hand game kept a lot of you in check. A lot of you now getting a little delusional, getting computer comfortable. Remember, I'll see you at another racket. You know what I'm saying? So watch your mouth, because you know how I come. But the bottom line is now I have my my Latin brothers and sisters that can come out that are not afraid of what you think because they love each other and they don't care about that. They've moved on in their life. So you two, please just elaborate, Mike, on what you've been privy to in this beautiful job that we have that people don't think there is systematic racism in it. System rigor.
As being light-skinned and my last name's ending with a vowel, people right away think that I'm white. And which I'm half white, but I side the Puerto Rican side with me. And I identify as a Puerto Rican 100%. So when I'm around them, they'll speak freely and they'll say things that are out of pocket and thinking that I'm one of them.
Can you give an example?
For example, I was in one of the Bronx offices when I was in auto crime. And no, I won't. And we were sitting there and they were talking, and there was another Latino worker in there before me because I was in Queens for about 8 years and then I got sent to the Bronx. And they were speaking really how they were calling minority savages. Oh, they were saying, spick and this, that, and I'm sitting there and I raise my head because I'm in the back of the office. I was hiding in the back, and I raise up and I say something, and I'm like, aren't you married to a Latina? I go, then your wife's a spick and your kids are a spick because you're offending me and you're offending my family right now.
Exactly.
And then I turned to the other guy who just stayed quiet and was laughing and joking about it. I go, and you're a disgrace to us to allow him, who's your partner, to talk like that about us. And then for them to go into the street. And then meanwhile, he's married and sleeps and lays with this lady.
Absolutely.
So it's out there. I mean, to deny it is to just deny the truth, because the truth is that there are lots of police officers who use derogatory language about, when talking about minorities, and because it's tolerated, whether it's fear of retaliation or fear of losing a position, I get that. That's real. I get it. But at some point, you have to be willing to stand up for what's right and what's wrong. And if you're not willing to do that, then step back and let those of us who are not afraid to speak up do what we need to do to bring this to light. Yeah. Unless we bring it out in the open and talk about it, things are never going to change.
Yeah. Absolutely. Mike, how did they treat you after you made that statement? Because obviously I respect you. You and I would have been partners forever. Right now we partners, because let me tell you something. I respect anybody that speaks up, because the bottom line is, I was telling Alicia earlier, we were talking, the more you speak up, and I was on a show today, shout out to the people that had me speaking at the university today in Rockland County. I really appreciate that. I don't want to divulge their names because maybe they don't want people to know them. But it was like they had me speaking, and we talked about a lot of times as I've gone across the way in my life, in my 55 years of living, the more I speak up, the more skin I shed, and the negative skin. You know what I'm saying? But I accrue you two individuals. You understand what I'm saying? So I'd rather have you two in my life than have all the fake ones that think that, that you only like me because I was good in the street. You know what I'm saying? I was a ghost. I was able to fight. So you knew I was great to go through the door with. I had your back. And like I said, this is not denouncing any white good officer out there. This is just trying to get to the solution. You got to speak about the problem. If you don't speak about the problem, you'll never speak about the solution. I'm tired of people talking about, oh, let it be. You've never been suppressed. And let me tell you something. I'm suppressed when you tell me to go to a detail, but you won't let that little punk sit there that got 5 years on because he's got a hook. He won't go. Because seniority, and then I'm supposed to be all right with that? Knock it off, man. Don't get me excited. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of white officers and white people in general do get offended when you talk about white privilege. And they misinterpret that, or they lack the understanding about what white privilege actually is and what it isn't. They immediately go to socioeconomic, economic status. Well, I grew up poor too, or there are lots of people in trailer parks. That's just socioeconomics. That has nothing to do with the fact that you can walk down a street and people don't automatically cross to the other side when they see you coming because of the color of your skin.
Absolutely.
You can go into a store to shop. Mike can go into,
anywhere,
a store, and he doesn't get followed around. Where if I go, especially if I dress stereotypical, clothes, what's considered, I will be followed all around the store and asked, can I help you? Can I help you a million times? Those are those racially biased, behaviors that contribute to the distrust, contribute to systemic racism. When we talk about systemic racism, those are some of the things we talk about. It's obviously a greater issue, but people need to acknowledge that that is an issue, that someone's white skin does afford them a certain amount of privilege.
I want to give a shout out. Alicia, I got a question for you and Mike. Shout out to everybody. This is Real Talk Chronicles. We know your daughter's watching in from YouTube. We appreciate her. This is Real Talk Chronicles. If you like it, share it. Let the world know this is Real Talk. This is what we do. I have Alicia Aurora and her husband, Mike. Aurora, right? That's the last name. I want to make sure yeah, okay, exactly. But I got to make sure the man get his proper respect, though. I ain't gonna disrespect because I know there's a hyphenation in there, so I didn't want to say it. So, shout out to Mashira. She said I check that bill every time. Needless to say, I wasn't very light. Good stuff, Mark, Darren Joseph is in the building. My man Phil Lewis is in the building. Mashira, she said there are ideologies in many Black and brown cultures that favor lighter and darker skin. I'm not sure if Alicia is familiar with the concept of La Majora. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the same. I will ask you later on in your leisure for you two to go back and comment, and you can be able to converse with people, via this thing. This is a beautiful thing about modern technology. We on YouTube Live, we on Facebook Live, and you can also go back and converse with them. Alicia, let me ask you a question, and Mike, I want you to chime in anytime you feel comfortable, and if need be. Alicia, give us some insight on what it's like to be a woman in NYPD and a Latina in NYPD. And Mike, if you ever had to check somebody for disrespecting your wife, you know what I'm saying? So, Alicia.
Yeah, no, I can definitely take care of myself.
Oh, no, absolutely. But listen, I know one thing, the beautiful thing. Did y'all meet at your job?
Yes.
Okay, see, that's a beautiful thing because you understood each other's work schedules, you understood, so you got together because you wanted to be together. But we understand, and I'm sure, Mike, you know this, and Alicia, I'm sure you know this, that a lot of our counterparts can be a little disrespectful and look at our women as just sex toys and tools. You understand what I'm saying? And that was
harassment on the job.
And that's what I was trying to say. So that's why I was asking that Mike, because I knew of a married couple of mine, a friend of mine, that one time, I never forget, I won't say any names, but my man came up to the, narcotics in Abbott Street. So I was like, yo, what you doing here? So he was like, yo, you know what so-and-so? So I was like, yeah. So I said, yeah, that's my man. So he was like, that's your man? I said, no, listen, he's my man. That's my man. But you're my man. Like, I grew up with you, like childhood. So I was like, oh. So he was like, I said, what's up? He said, nah, I came to see dude because I felt he was a little disrespectful to my wife. So I was like, oh, okay, because sometimes to be pretty is a curse. I know I'm pretty Billy. It was a curse. No, you know what I'm saying? I'm just being facetious. But what I'm trying to say is that a lot of times guys can take friendliness and think that the fact that you're a female. So yeah, I just want you to elaborate on how beautiful your career was, and some bumps that you went through. And Mike, how did you help her through those times too? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I vested out after about 10 years. I was a cadet first and then got promoted to police officer with Ravello. We were cadets together, and
okay.
And we both went to the 4-8. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of women experience, sexual harassment, to some degree or another. I personally had an amazing experience in the 4-8 with the men and women that I worked with. They were all great people. I did have, a couple of instances where guys were inappropriate, and how I chose to handle it. If it was something that bothered me, was say, can I speak to you privately and say, I don't appreciate that. Please cut it out.
Right.
And that usually, handled the situation. What I do say, and one of the things I noticed when I first arrived in the 4-8 was that it was a predominantly minority precinct, mm-hmm. which was very different than the precinct I came from, which was the 5-2.
Right.
So when I got to the 4-8, I was like, oh, I'm home. My people are here. I was so happy. Thrilled. But also, when I looked around at the different units, the SNU and the anti-crime and CPOP and all those units, they were all whites. And it was we were in a community that was all blacks and Hispanics for the most part, other than Arthur Avenue. And it really was it took me aback because it stood out. And I do recall this one sergeant, Sergeant Barry. He was a black officer, a black sergeant, and his unit had the minorities, and he caught a lot of heat, for that from other bosses because they thought he was being racist, right?
But hold that thought. Remember, I told Sammy that on one show, Sammy and I, we did a interview on TV on a podcast together, and I told him that we have been in a job that a lot of our white counterparts have taken care of white officers without moving blacks and Latins up in the ranks.
And a lot of favoritism.
Absolutely. And I was just telling them, I said, I just hope that when you were there, that you was fair. You know what I'm saying? Because the bottom line is, and when I say fair, look at your other people. Because I remember when I went in the SNU in the 2A precinct, I was thrown in the SNU by the commander, respect to Joyce Stevens, and she put me in there. And at the time, the officers, even the one that I do the show with on Wednesdays, Kevin Branzetti, a lot of times the officers in the group didn't think I was there, or they didn't think I deserved to be there. It's always something that they feel like he didn't deserve to be there. But I was there and I did what I had to do, and I shined, and I developed great relationships, because either you're going to accept me for who I am, or we're going to clash. It is what it is. I mean, that's why I try to tell a lot of people in this community, don't be so hard on the officers that you meet and see in the street, because you have a Mike, you have a Alicia, you have a Bill Foster, and the bottom line is, we're all on the same page. All we want to do is do our job. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. If we have discretion that it doesn't really have to be an arrest or a violation, we're going to exercise that. But don't sit there and just call us out of our names, because you have 3 individuals here and we're still fighting for the same cause. But we all 3 have a different skin tone. Mike's a little lighter than Alicia. Alicia's maybe a pinch lighter than me. But right here, we're still here trying to do the right thing. And that's why I try to tell everybody, don't always clump all the officers in the same category, because not every black person wants to be lumped in with a thug, or a Latin person wants to be a thug, or a white person that wants to be a racist, or a white person is a thug. Because the bottom line is, the media is putting a lot of black on black crime, a lot of brown on brown crime, but on the next breath, there's a lot of white on white crime too. So understand that, and don't get
you don't see the media as often. So the media contributes to that worldview that there's a lot of crimes committed by people of color. They fail to highlight those crimes that are committed by whites. Now that's changing over time. It's changing, and it was getting better until we have this buffoon in the White House. Exactly. But, and I call him exactly what he is, a racist.
No, you told it right. And you spoke good English too when you said it before.
But, one of the things that troubled me when I was on the job, and I always spoke up against it, was when officers referred to people in a community as all animals.
And savages. That's crazy.
Animal, dirty, those kinds of adjectives to describe, to paint people of color in one single brush stroke, that's racist. The fact that people don't get that's a racial bias, that's a racially, biased worldview. And if you're an officer and you hold those racially biased worldviews, don't tell me you're not taking that out into the street when you're dealing with the public. Don't tell me that you are not taking that with you throughout your career, making hiring decisions, drafting hiring practices, and adjudicating, different issues that happen within the police department, because that would be false and it would be a lie. You can't.
Hold on, Alicia. Mashira, shout out to T. O'Neill, former 2-8, Darren Gall in the 2-8 in the house, my man Mario, Harriet, what's happening, everybody? Mashira was saying, exactly, don't stereotype anyone, treat others as you want to be treated. Mike, I want to, and Mashira, I was gonna ask you to be on the show tonight because I'm definitely going to represent my Latin culture and have you off, maybe Alicia, and have Mike back, and have you, Mashira, and any other Latin officer once on for, Hispanic Month, because we have to represent our officers that are conscious and that are out there for us, because the bottom line is, I love everybody. I only dislike you when you dislike me. You know what I'm saying? So that's real 100. So, Mike, let me ask you a question. Hold on, let me read what Lewis said. Exactly, the media is responsible for the negative world view of Black and brown people. Another contribution to the success of racism model. Absolutely. Mike, let me ask you a question. You being mixed biracial, but you represent, I'm gonna say the party right now that are for the consciously aware, and you
people.
yeah, for the people, you know what I'm saying? And you're a man, and you have a powerful woman in your life. But tell me about your career, like, because I'm sure a lot of times it's harder for you to be a certain color. You know what I'm saying? But you rep. But then you hear people just saying so crazy things, and not that you have to speak out all the time, and not that you have to speak out sometime. But I know sometimes it's aggravating all the time. So just elaborate on your career, brother, please.
I mean, it is aggravated. I mean, like I said, I started off in the 4-5, and I remember born and raised in Co-op City, also, which is part of the 45th precinct. And when I got there, I asked for Sector John, which is Co-op City, and it was interesting walking into some of these apartments, and you would see pictures of me in school pictures, and I pointed out to my partner, we would joke about them. But we had a problem up over there with cops parking illegal. And, we had to write tickets. So I had to issue with that because Co-op City's 40,000 strong. There's only 2 of us in there. And if I need help, the off-duty officer is the one that's going to help me, and I don't feel I should be out there banging out my brothers and sisters.
Exactly. Not bringing it down. No, exactly.
So I brought this to the attention of my delegate, and right away he goes, "Bunch of savages up there. That's all they are."
Meanwhile, your parents live there.
and my parents just moved back over there. I was born and raised over there, so we got into it. So they had to separate us. So and after that, we never dealt with each other again. He stayed away from me, and everybody in the precinct kind of knew. Hold on, we got to be careful and tap dance around when we're saying things.
So much for brothers and sisters supporting each other, right? So much for that.
Fast forward like 5 to 7 years, I transfer out. I'm an undercover in auto crime, and they bring me back into the 4-5 because they're having a problem with stolen cars. And we go into the office. The CO now is talking to us. It's all new crew, so nobody really knows me. Maybe one cop in the building knows me in the room that I'm in right now. Right away, the captain, the CO goes, "Well, we're going to handle this. They're going to put us in the club, in the country club. It's a very quiet area, all Italians." And they go, "I'm going to leave my guys in Co-op City because it's rough. We got a lot of, rowdy people there, and you guys wouldn't be able to handle it." So I start laughing because I'm telling my boss, I was born and raised there. My parents live there. So he's right away sees something, and I go, "First of all, I'm a NYPD officer. I'm a detective." I go, "I'm not scared to walk into a neighborhood. I'm going, I walk in, and you know what? I'm a firm believer of you got to give to get. You got to give that respect to get it." So when I went out to the street, people, I would talk to you because that was me sitting out there hanging out when I was younger. Or if I'm talking to an adult, I want respect, so I'm going to give it to you. And it always turns back and comes back to me. So he didn't like that we were laughing about it. And again, I told him, I was born and raised over there. I said, that was my sector before you were even here. I'm going, I'll walk through there. I go, I'm an undercover right now. Don't carry a vest. Cops don't know who I am. I go, and I just have I carry a gun that's, a funny gun, what we called.
Of course.
So, I go, I'm not worried.
I was with you. I was an undercover and a ghost. So I was the ultimate ghost. Yeah, so I'm with you, brother. Exactly.
So, like I said, once I voiced myself, people usually, played kid gloves with me. They were very cautious with me after. They knew where I stood, and they kept it then civil with me. And I know when I walked out the office, they talk about me, but I could care less.
Exactly. And you know what's so funny? I think that's a beautiful thing about who we are. And that's a beautiful thing because we don't care what you say about us because I know you ain't gonna say it in my face. You definitely ain't gonna say it in my face. And it's just so funny. Like I see how recently that, you know, I could see a function that I wasn't invited to. And it's all right because now I'm not fitting the mold anymore because I'm not going to sit there and go pro Trump. I'm not going to do that. I'm not built like that. And I've never been a falsified guy. Like Sammy has always said, I've always been an independent thinker. So I know, Mike, you and I would have rocked. Alicia and I, we would have been partners. And it's a beautiful thing. So, Alicia, let me ask you a question. How did you feel? Did you ever run across that ideology where some guys didn't want to work with you because you were female?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Because you know what's so funny? I had a conversation. Like I said, I was speaking at the college university today, and they asked me how did I feel about women on the job, and I told them, or did I run across? I just want to make sure I make the paraphrase it close to what it was. It was regards to did I see how women were treated on the job? And basically I was saying, yeah, I said, because a lot of times I saw a lot of male officers that I knew couldn't fight, didn't want to work with a female who I knew would get down more than you. Because the beautiful thing about us being inner city people, and correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, that we were brought up to learn not to be punks. Right?
Yeah.
From your brothers, your sisters, your friends. Like even if you went to school, yo, don't take my pencil. Yo, don't what? We'll fight over a pencil. And the bottom line is we knew that we were taught by our parents, especially if you had some old school parents, some Latinas or some kind of culture in it, even white families. Because I've had some white friends that we were all brought up with respect and not being taught to be soft. With that being said, we knew how to handle ourselves. That's why I think it's always important for the new generation to get on the job to be inner city kids. I have no problems with people moving outside of New York. I feel like after 5 years, move out. You can move outside because there isn't anything wrong with upgrading yourself. We all supposed to do that. We're supposed to upgrade ourselves. But unless you're not, see now there's a difference between the three of us being inner city kids, and there's a cat that said he's from this city, he's from this borough, but he ain't never come out because he's a punk. You understand what I'm saying? He was in the house all day. See, like you said, your family from Co-op. You know, Alicia, where'd you grow up at?
In the Bronx.
In the Bronx. See, so I'm saying I'm a Harlem cat. I still got property in Harlem. I still walk these streets. I can walk any borough without my gun because I can. Right now, I carry my gun because the streets have gotten a little lawlessness. But the bottom line is, I still walk these streets without it because I was somebody before that. You too was somebody before that. And that's what I think is important, to never forget your roots. And that's why, Mike, your wife and I hit it off on Sammy's page because we were like-minded individuals and we were talking about our people and what is not just delusion in the White House. Mike, let me ask you a question. How do you feel, or how do your people treat it? Shout out to Kenny Stella in the building, Manny Ramirez. Manny's another brother, man. You know, I rep you, Manny. I'm going to get you on the show if you ever get a chance, you know, and bring Mike back and Alicia back to represent my Latin brothers and sisters and Mishira and do a segment on my Hispanic family. Mike, how did your former colleagues treat you that feel that you're a Democrat or you're voting Democrat at this point? How you know, because you know we can go side to side a lot of times. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Because like I tell people, my father was a Republican, but he taught me all the time. He said, "Yo, you vote for what's right, not for just your party, your political party." So, and that's the one thing when I spoke to Alicia earlier, I asked her, I said, "Yo, if Mike wants to come on the show, bring him on. If he's like-minded," she was like, "Absolutely."
If we were not like-minded, we would not be married.
Hey, Mike, let me tell you something. You don't want that bed cold, brother. You don't want that bed cold.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Exactly. Listen, I'm married too, brother. So we know. You be like, okay, you know what I'm saying? But I say all that to say, and I say that with love and jest. Mike, how have you been received by your former coworkers? The fact that you have not, you know, you've kind of gone on the Biden bandwagon a little bit. Have they kind of ostracized you or looked at you a little differently?
Absolutely. I'm a sellout. You know, I'm a disgrace of the blue uniform. I've been called everything and anything that you can possibly think of, and
by your brothers
by
in blue.
by my brothers and sisters in blue. I should say my sisters, by my brothers in blue. Not even my sisters don't do that. So, you know, but they want to have like unity and love and everything like that. But once I said, well, I'm not voting for Trump, you know, you know, and we'll go back and forth saying that, you know, how can you, because you're law enforcement. I go, law enforcement. That was my job. And once I was done with it, it was done. That doesn't define who I am. And you know, and I'll say it. I voted for Bush once. I voted for him once. You know, but I'll sit there and I'll listen to you, and if I like what you're saying, and I think you're going to do something, I'll definitely do it. I'm not colorblind with the party. I'm not red and I'm not
partisan.
blue. Yeah. So yeah, my partner, my very first partner. He's a Republican, and we'll joke. We don't, you know, he knows that I'm a Democratic Republican. We don't have a problem with it. You know, we will talk about it. We'll talk, and never had an argument with him and I. Will laugh at. And there are times, I'll tell you, we go on Facebook just to mess with the other Republicans. And I'm like, if you see the two of us on there, you should know better that we're up to something. You know,
exactly.
Because they get really serious about it, and it's just like, it's not that serious there. We got to be fighting with each other, calling each other names.
Yo, people lose their mind. Alicia and I was talking earlier, how in these groups that we're in that I don't understand the things, the vile things that they say. And listen, I'm talking to all my white friends out there, or my white coworkers. If you're not my friend, it's okay. If you wrote it, you're wrong. And I don't understand. Listen, you all know. And hold on, Alicia. I tell them all the time, you all know y'all not coming for this cat. Yeah, definitely don't want these hands. Let me tell you something. 55 and I'm still knocking cats out. And I ain't fighting no more. But let me tell you something. You don't want that. You know what I'm saying? Because right now I have too much to lose, and I got too much to give to my community and my people that want to rock with me. But I say all that to say that it's a shame that we have to defend independent ideology. You understand what I'm saying? For our people. And all the things that you said, Alicia said, and I said, it's just about people. It's not about a blue. And I tell people all the time, I'm all for blue when they go in against FD. I'm all for blue if they're playing against Chicago PD or LAPD. I'm NYPD blue 24/7. The same way I rep my block, I rep my college, I rep my, you know what I'm saying? I rep my borough, I rep New York. You know what I'm saying? It's New York against anything. I'm watching the Yankees now, winning 2-1 versus Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, y'all. I know y'all in Florida, but y'all better still rep. You know what I'm saying?
Right here.
That's it. But I'm saying all that to say that people have independent minds. That's the only thing Alicia and Mike and I are trying to tell you. Be independent. Love yourself. Know your history. Know your culture. Let me tell you something. There isn't anything wrong with that. I've got you guys long enough. I want Alicia and Mike. You are always you have developed a brother and a sister and my wife. Anytime, just call me. I will inbox you my personal number. We will keep in touch personally. I want you two back before the month is out to represent Hispanic Heritage Month. Mike, I will have you on another time too. Like Darren Gall told me, just shout out to Darren Gall. He said, let's do a show on undercovers, how we were as NYP undercovers. Because right now, people can't stop me from what I'm saying and what I'm doing right now, and I appreciate that. I want to shout out everybody that's shouting in. What's up, Vanessa? Hey, Messiah. What's up, Doug? I'm just shouting out everybody that's chiming in. This is Real Talk Chronic. What's up, Cabrera? I see you. Mashira, exactly. Go Yankees. This is Bill Forster. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I've had the beautiful pleasure of having my cousin, Dr. Marilyn Corder, world-renowned doctor in the DMV area, break it down with Alicia and I on the COVID, what the president had, and things of that magnitude, or what he has, or what he's supposed to have. We don't know. Please get out there and vote. I've had the pleasure to set for the second half of the show to have Alicia and her handsome husband Mike in the building, and his lovely wife Alicia. We are sitting here and we are just talking about life, politics. People, get out there and vote. If you can't do anything, do something positive for people. Mike, Alicia, I go around, I speak to people of color about how to interact with law enforcement. I will be calling on you two to help me quell the tension between people of color and law enforcement, because the bottom line is we are not anti-police. We are anti the BS. We are anti the BS. We can give them different perspectives on how to interact with law enforcement, because we are tired of you killing people of color. That's all we're trying to say. If you soft, don't take this job. Take an administrative job somewhere. Go to, no disrespect to any other job. Go there. It's easiest. Let us people that the three of us do what we had to do. Let us teach and train the people that are coming on. Let us have the interaction with us. Ask us. We can give you some insight. Nobody has to be a super fighter. Nobody has to be a Steven Seagal. Nobody has to be a Jackie Chan, or nobody has to be anything superhero. Steven Statement, a Jason Statement. All we're trying to say is just be the best officer you can be. If you know you're not built for the street, ask for an administrative position. You know what I'm saying? That is it. Alicia, thank you. I hope you like it. I hope you share it. You are always welcome back.
Thank you.
Anytime you two want to come back separately, individually, I ask you, please hit me up and just chime in. Real Talk Chronicles is on Mondays and Wednesdays. Everybody get out there and vote. Vote for somebody. We know who I want you to personally vote for, but I want you to vote for somebody. Alicia and Mike, before we close out, I would love for you two to give them some parting words of wisdom. Alicia, you can go first, and Mike, you can finish up. Just give some words of wisdom and anything you want to say positive for the people out there listening.
All I want to say is that get out and vote. It like your life depends on it, because it absolutely does. Lead with compassion. That's to all my, the people who are police officers. Lead with compassion. Treat people like human beings. And we're not talking about those that are trying to attack you, but lead with compassion, have an open mind, an open heart, talk to people, connect with the people in your community. Otherwise, things are not going to get better. Stay safe, be well, and good luck.
Mike?
I would like to say the same thing. Vote like your life depends on it. Treat others as the way you want to be treated. Like I said before, you got to give respect to get respect. I'm a big believer on it, and I will always say that. I just want everybody to be safe out there, and please don't listen to this man in office right now. Be out there, be safe, and vote.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Like I said, I will have Alicia and Mike back by the end of the month. Like I said, I will be doing a segment with my Hispanic family to give some insight on what it is to be a Hispanic, to do the damn thing. And this is a country that we were brought over here. Even though we didn't want to be here, they brought us over here, and we're here, and we're doing a damn thing. Mike, I appreciate you to be a biracial man, to stand up for what you believe in and speak out. I applaud you. I respect you 200%. I'm so happy that Sammy has brought this union together. Let me tell you something. Our friendship will be here forever. I appreciate that. I just want to read something that your daughter said. Proud to have both of you as my parents. Thank you for inspiring me to think critically and to break the mold. That is what's up. That's the whole thing. That's the bond. How many children do you have?
Three. One was from a previous marriage, but they're all my.
It's a family. It's a family. It's a beautiful thing. And you know what's so funny?
Great husband.
One day we will do a lot of things on. Let me ask you a question before I let you guys go. How did you do? Because I used to do a segment, COVID couples in quarantine. How did you two do during the quarantine? Just like I know it was just I know you love each other. I know you're used to your own space and stuff like that.
For us, it was a little bit of a unique case because we were in the middle of selling one house and buying another house, and that kept us very busy. Tried not to fight too much when we were in the middle of it. I
just went outside and just packed. That's all.
Absolutely, absolutely, man.
We'll survive. We'll be together another 20 years. We have great respect and great love for each other.
Oh man, awesome. Listen, everybody out there, I'm Bill Forster. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I have the Auroras with me, Alicia and Mike. Shout out to my cousin, Dr. Marilyn Corder, that was in the building and gave us some insight on the COVID-19. Shout out to your daughter. I want to pronounce her name properly, Malene. Malin. Shout out for holding your parents down in the YouTube chat. She's on the YouTube. I ask everybody out there, if you like it, share it. Real Talk Chronicles. Appreciate you all. Wednesday, I'll be back. Hopefully, I'll be back with Kevin. But if Kevin's not, I'll definitely have civil rights attorney on that will be talking about the do's and the don'ts of what you need to do if you feel like you need to make a complaint against law enforcement, or you feel you've been unjustly served. Listen, let me tell you, everybody out there, I am pro law enforcement, but I'm Black first. I am for my brown and Black people. That's what it is. There is no discrepancy with that. Blue is something that I can put on. Black is, I can't take this off, man. So this is just who I am. They can't take their skin tone off, man. So love who you are, and don't let a job define you. Don't let anything define you. You know, not a frat, not a college, not a block, not anything. You know, be you. Because when you make a better us. This is Real Talk Chronicles, everybody. I'll talk to y'all later. Alicia, y'all stay on for a second.
All right.